All right, welcome everybody. I have, of course, once again, Timothy Holmseth with me. I haven't had him on for a while, so I thought it was due to have him on, especially in light of some recent events. So I reported on Friday about the story that broke that everyone heard about with Bob Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, who was caught up in this international human trafficking ring down in Florida. Of course, there's been a lot of arrests, a lot of news stories about this human trafficking. I believe it's even child sex trafficking. But I wanted Timothy to come on because just in the last 4 days, he's published 2 different articles. One was 4 days ago called Patriots Owner Florida Sex Bust and International Human Trafficking Scene Hits Home in Northern Minnesota. And then he published another one just 2 days ago called Patriots Owner Bob Kraft Sex Case. Minnesota police destroyed news reporters' evidence of human sex trafficking operation running through Jupiter, Florida. For any of you who know or may not know who Timothy Holmseth is, he's an award-winning journalist up until 2009 when he stumbled upon this human trafficking case down in Florida involving Haley Cummings. And as he began to get deeper and deeper into this, he got the left foot of fellowship from the media that he used to work for. The police began to harass him. He went through years of harassment as he started digging into child sex trafficking. And so now he's an independent journalist. Well, a lot of the stuff that he's uncovered and been involved with is directly tied to the human trafficking ring we're seeing exposed right now in real time. So without further ado, I'm going to hand this over to Timothy. And I've asked him to come onto my show to talk about these 2 articles and even news that's literally breaking in real time as it relates to this case. Go ahead, Timothy.
Thanks a lot, Daniel. It's great to be with you as always. Great introduction. You got everybody a little bit updated there about what I'm going to talk about. Something else I'll add is that right now, I live in East Grand Forks, Minnesota. Right now, I'm charged with four counts of violating an order that was issued out of Broward County, Florida, right by Jupiter. I'm charged with 4 counts, and they're literally trying to frame me and put me in prison. So, just to let you know that that's where we're at with it. Like, the law is after me. They're literally trying to stop me. They started 10 years ago, and they're still trying. I got a trial date coming up, I think March 11th and March 12th. Okay, so regarding the articles that I published, as everybody knows, I'm not going to go through the whole thing again, but in 2009, I stumbled upon a trafficking operation when I started talking to some people that were key figures in a child kidnapping down there in Florida. And I started talking to figures in Broward County, Florida. Go ahead, look at your map. Look where Broward County, Florida is. Look at where Fort Lauderdale is. Okay, what I found out about was a child sex trafficking operation, black market baby sales. And I'm talking about, I got the names of the people. You can go to my website, timothycharlesholmseth.com. You'll find a lot of everything that I'm allowed that I can put up without getting arrested. Black market baby sales. Also prostitution houses in the woods where they were keeping young kids is how it was described to me. And even local officials, police, local officials, and church members, as it was described to me, were going and having sex with these kids. Now, this is the trafficking operation. There's been as you know my background, Daniel, so you know that they've been, the authorities, law enforcement in Minnesota has been colluding with Indiana and Florida for a decade. They've done everything to try to put me in prison, to plant drugs on me. I get death threats over the phone. All this can be found on my website. You can actually listen to the phone calls that I get by people that actually say this is the deep state. You have X amount of time to take your websites down. Okay, the reason they're doing that is because I obtained information about this trafficking operation involving Bob Kraft. That's what I had. I had tons of information about different things. If you read today, I think it was just today, the Daily Mail put up an article And it says, it talks about the sex trafficking operation in Florida involving Bob Kraft, $20 million. It's an international ring. That's what I uncovered. If you were to go through the court files involving me in Polk County, Minnesota, first of all, I managed, although the police tried to destroy my computer, I managed to get I found a bunch of the files involving the sex trafficking operation, and I managed to get a bunch of them into the court record. So you can actually purchase those discs and you can listen to it. So I'm not making this up. I'm risking my life every freaking minute, even right now. Okay, so I try to do this in a linear fashion, but it gets hard.
Yeah.
Something I want to emphasize to everybody, I did this a little bit ago on Facebook, but I'm going to do it again. In 2012, I had come upon this trafficking operation, and then in 2011, I got sent a flash drive, a huge flash drive by a CIA operative that contained tons of information. And as soon as I got that, they turned all the heat on. And they got this order out of Broward County, Florida, so they could arrest me. And then their efforts to frame me, I managed to battle. I won't even get into that. But the Minnesota Pine to Prairie Gang and Drug Task Force got a search warrant, fraudulently obtained a search warrant to get my computer. And I'm going to show you something. So I want everybody to see this for all posterity, because I don't even know how long I'm going to live.
And just while he's getting that, he was referencing a story that literally broke today. I'll link this below the video, but it's from the dailymail.com. 8 more women are arrested for prostitution in Florida's international sex trafficking ring, which netted Patriots owner Robert Kraft and is believed to involve 20 million of illegal transactions between the U.S. and China. Go ahead, Tim.
All right. The police, they stormed my home office. They were wearing bulletproof vests. And they came in and they took, they were literally wiping my mail off the top of my desk into bags. They took my computer. Now here's the computer. This is evidence.
Yeah.
All right. When it was finally ordered returned by the court, there wasn't anything illegal on it. They destroyed it. They destroyed my hard drive. They snapped clips. Doesn't work anymore. They tried to get rid of the evidence, but I'll show you something. There's a phone they took. Phone. They were very interested in everything I was doing. For instance, see on this one, they took post-up notes, any jot or tittle, anything I wrote, every name I wrote, everything I was writing. See how it says Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension?
Yeah.
It's a critical fact to remember. These are Minnesota BCA stickers. These are evidence. The Minnesota BCA is the state crime lab. It's a Minnesota police agency. It's the big guys. Like, they investigate police shootings. You know what I mean? They're like the state agency. That's their stickers. More. I'm showing you these stickers for a reason I'll explain in a minute. See, like in my mail, express mail, stuff that came to me. People were sending me stuff. All right. Another one. I'm going to never get it. But BCA, that's Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. Okay, so when they took all that property, they put all those stickers on it. That meant, essentially what that meant was it was a BCA operation. It was a BCA raid. And it was, the raid was conducted by the commander of the Minnesota Pine to Prairie Gang and Drug Task Force. His name is Sergeant Iso Shraga. He's an East Grand Forks police officer, but he's also the local commander for the task force. Okay, so they took all my property. They took my property on December 14th, 2012. And On January 4th, 2013, which would be a couple of weeks later, there was a court hearing. The court hearing was attended by the city attorney for East Grand Forks, the guy that's highly involved with the Florida people. His name is Ronald Gallstead. He's a local attorney. He's totally corrupt. He's totally involved in this racketeering. He's the one prosecuting me, trying to put me in jail and trying to frame me and have me put in prison. Okay, on January 4th, 2013, there was a hearing. He was representing the city. I was there by myself because I fired my lawyer that tried to set me up. At the hearing, Ronald Gallstead talked about that raid of my property, and he's talking to the judge. Now, I've got the court transcripts for this. In fact, you can read them at my website, timothycharlesholmseth.com. I think all that's under a link called Making a Murderer in Minnesota. You can actually see the documents that you're going to hear me talking about. Okay, so he tells the judge that the Minnesota BCA took my computer, and then he talks about it with the judge, and he says that long and short of it is he tells the judge that they're working with the BCA to have the BCA search my computer. But he said, but for whatever reason, the BCA needs another warrant to search that computer. That's what he told the judge. And so he said that he needed another warrant to search the computer, and he was going to be making a request for that. And he asked the judge to just issue an order telling the BCA to search my computer. Okay, here's the thing though, Danny. He claimed he was working with the BCA. When this whole thing was over, see, I didn't know at that time all those stickers were on my property. But when the whole court process finally ended, I got all the stuff back, and there's this BCA stickers, and I thought, this is weird. So I contacted the East Grand Forks Police Department in Minnesota. I contacted the chief of police. His name is Michael Hedlund. And I asked him for the chain of custody records for my property, because when they see stuff, they have to write down who took it, where it went, where it was kept, if it was moved, you know what I mean? It's a chain. Michael Hedlund writes me back, and he says, we didn't keep any. We didn't keep any chain of custody records. And he said, neither did the Polk County Sheriff's Office. Now, that'd be Polk County, Minnesota. There's a lot of Polk counties in the country. Okay, so I thought, oh, great. That's just one more thing that they did that violating policies, I thought, oh, great. So what do I do? I thought, well, you know what? I'll contact the BCA. I'll just contact the BCA and ask them for their copy of the chain of records evidence. I contacted the BCA. They wrote me back. They said, we don't have a clue what you're even talking about. And I said, what? They said, what do you mean? And I said, well, the East Grand Forks Police and the Pine to Prairie Task Force seized my cameras and my recorders and my mail and my computer and my hard drive. And I said, and they put BCA stickers all over, and they said, we don't know what you're talking about. We didn't have anything to do with it. And I was told that by Jill Oliveira. She's the public information officer for the BCA, the Minnesota Department of Public Safety. And then I also talked to, now this is by email, so you can read this on my website. You can actually see the emails, my exchanges with them. I talked to, his name is Drew Evans. He's actually the superintendent of the BCA. He's the big guy. He's the boss. He wrote me back and he said, we played no role in the investigation you described. We didn't know about it. We didn't know about it in advance. We don't know about it now. We never told anybody they could use our stickers, and nobody ever asked us to search your computer. So the attorney for the city of East Grand Forks is in the court transcripts lying to a judge about a computer that they seized. He's committing perjury against me. All right. So, and now the world is starting to find out through this Bob Kraft deal what was so important about Timothy Holmseth and my computer. Because believe me, Danny, who the hell was I? I mean, I was a good news reporter. I won first place awards and stuff when I worked in the industry. But who am I? Fox News? Why are these? It never made any sense why these police we're putting such a focus on this little guy from Minnesota who's just had his little website, you know what I mean? But I was good at what I did. And when I do these filings that are coming up with the court, everybody's going to see this. It's all going to be filed with the court. Everybody's going to see all the evidence. I'm putting it all on the record now. And you're going to see literally the list of people that I interviewed: police officers, lawyers, cops, advocates, the family of Haley Cummings. And they tried to convince the world and the public that Timothy Holmseth was just this crazy guy, you know? Oh, he's just that, oh, yeah, you know, like I was goofy. Oh, yeah? How come I won first place awards? Why am I so damn good at what I do that I was able to get, I don't know, 50, 60 different interviews I did? And I found out about this trafficking operation. And that it was being run up from New York to Florida there. Exactly the way it's described in the Daily Mail article. Daniel, that's what they were. They knew what was on my computer. That's what I'm saying. And now they're trying to put me in prison. I mean, I'm locked in literally a death battle with the devil himself now in Polk County, Minnesota, because they're so evil that. So I can answer. Go ahead.
So no one in Minnesota messed with you until you stumbled upon this case down in Florida with Haley Cummings. And
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, so no one messed with you until that happened. Haley Cummings, of course, for those who don't know, she was abducted in Florida way back. This happened way back in 2009. But this sort of opened the doors for Timothy Holmseth to uncover all of this child sex trafficking and human trafficking going on down in Florida. And now what we're seeing with these huge prostitution rings, and guys, this is not just about a Joe going to a prostitute. If you think that that's the case, you're not digging here. This is about an international human trafficking ring that's been operating in the state of Florida, like what Timothy's saying, and even what the news is saying right now, from Florida all the way up the corridor to New York. And this is involving millions and millions of dollars. There are some big wigs associated with this, not only Bob Kraft, but we got the CEO of Citibank as well that's caught up in this. And Timothy was the one who first uncovered this way back in 2009 when they basically said, oh, he's crazy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. You know, they raided his home. They took his computer, destroyed the computer, never kept the chain of evidence, never admitted what they did was wrong, admitted that there was nothing on the computer, yet but they destroyed it, all the stuff that Timothy had on that computer. I mean, I wanted Timothy on my show today because I wanted people to understand that this is something that's been ongoing for a while. Timothy Holmseth was the one who first really uncovered this. No one else had touched this. And he got a lot of persecution because of that, and now it's coming out into the limelight. So, Timothy, tell us more about this court hearing that you have coming up in Polk County.
Well, I'm charged with 4 counts of violating this order out of Broward County, Florida. Now, that Broward County, Florida, I've been told by every attorney that I've talked to that the order violates the Constitution. I mean, I'm not just saying that. Every lawyer I talk to, in fact, I'm talking to lawyers right now. It's being handled. It's being addressed, which costs a lot of money. But the order actually said that I had to remove everything off the internet. I'm going to be very careful about what I say. I'm just going to say that I had to remove all this stuff off the internet that had been legally published. I'd legally published it. I obtained it legally. And then it said, and I could never make a direct or indirect reference to, whoever. And if I did, I'd be arrested and put in jail. I mean, basically, if you're basically saying, if you are even thinking about certain things or whatever, people or whatever, while you're talking and you make an indirect reference, you're breaking a law. Well, there's no such law in the United States. That's a violation of the First Amendment. We're allowed to talk.
Right.
So I'm charged with 4 counts of that. And as I put out in a Facebook video today, I explained, I probably won't go into a lot of detail about this, but the bottom line is the state is trying to frame me, and here's how they're doing it. It involves the defense attorney assigned to me by the Minnesota Public Defender's Office. Over the past 10 years, I've been assigned 3 public defenders by the Minnesota Public Defender's Office. Every one of those attorneys secretly conspired with Ronald Gallstead to try to frame me. So the attorneys weren't defending me. And I'm not just saying that, I can prove it. It's all going to be filed and the world will be able to see it. But the way that they're doing this is, I'll give you an example. The very first time I was charged with publishing something that I wasn't supposed to publish, they arrested me, and the defense attorney assigned to me was totally corrupt. But when he first talked to me, he actually said a true thing. His name was Michael Lucassier. In fact, I think he's the prosecutor in Red Lake County, Minnesota now. But he was my defense counsel. When I first met with him, he looked right at me and he goes, "Oh, they got a huge hole in their case." Now, I already knew this, but this is my lawyer telling me this. He said, "They got a huge hole in their case." And I said, "Yeah, what?" And he said, "They can't prove venue." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, and he gave me a piece of paper that he had scanned off out of a law book. And he said, according to the jury instruction guide, the jury instruction guide shows what the judge instructs the jury. They have to prove this, 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 and this in order for you to find the defendant guilty. They have to prove that the crime happened in Polk County, Minnesota. That's called venue. See, that's in our country. You can't willy-nilly. Police departments can't just arrest people or keep pursuing charges. And to give you an example, it'd be like, let's say I robbed a liquor store in Grand Forks, North Dakota. The police up there in Alaska, say I come up and I visit you, Dan. The police, where are you? Where are you again? Anchorage?
I'm in Juneau.
Juneau. Okay.
Yeah.
For my hypothetical, the Juneau police can't come up and grab me and say, "We're arresting you." And I say, "What for?" They say, "Because you robbed that liquor store in Grand Forks." They can arrest me if there's a warrant, but they'd have to send me back down to where the venue is. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
They have to be able to, well, according to the law in Minnesota, they have to prove to the jury that the crime was committed in Polk County. That's the only way that Ronald Gallstead and these police can try to have access to Timothy Holmseth. They have to have venue. They can't prove it.
Right.
They don't have
the whole venue's down. The whole venue's down in Florida. I mean, that's where the venue is. Of course, the other even deeper question is you didn't even violate the law to begin with, but the venue's in Florida. It's not in Minnesota, right?
Or, well, the way that the law reads is where the crime was committed. Okay. I can already tell you, Daniel, and this is all going to be submitted to the court. This has already been covered. The issue of venue, the feds. I have scholarly articles and case law that's been published by the United States government. Even the feds, in their big RICO cases and drug investigations and stuff like, El Chapo or anything involving the internet, it's still a nightmare to ever try to establish venue because there's too many legal arguments that can be made about where was the crime committed. For one thing, Daniel, I'll just point something out. I'm just going to point something out, just a vague statement. I live in East Grand Forks, Minnesota. When I go to pick my son up for school, I drive for about 4 minutes over a bridge, and I'm in Grand Forks, North Dakota. You picking up what I'm laying down?
Yeah.
They have to prove, in order for them to proceed against me in a court of law, for them to have venue, they have to prove the crime was committed in Polk County, Minnesota. I'm not even saying I did it. Well, let's just hypothetically say that I did. What if I was in Canada? I mean, I'm in driving distance of Canada. What if I was...
Let me just clarify this for my audience. So what exact crime are they accusing you of committing?
The first charge, the one that I'm facing trial on in the beginning of March here, I'm charged with committing the horrendous crime of allegedly publishing court records.
So
I allegedly published...
Basically, you're exercising your freedom of speech. You're trying to bring to light and exposing court records that would directly implicate the child sex trafficking ring in Florida, and they want to silence you.
Daniel, guess what was in the court records that I allegedly published for the world to see and hear? The audio files that talk about Florida, the voices, the statements being made, the child trafficking. I'm charged with making that available. They say that I did. I'm not confessing to anything or anything like that. That's what I'm charged with. That's the crime that I committed. Was whoever did it, Daniel, whoever did it was trying to say, Mr. and Mrs. America, President Trump, everybody, these people are killing babies. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, essentially, and this is just so horrific. Guys, what we have here is that Timothy Holmseth is doing all he can. Well, I know he's saying this is alleged, so he's not admitting to the crime. But I'm just going to say, as the owner of this YouTube channel, Timothy Holmseth is doing all he can to expose what's going down in Florida. We have some very powerful and wealthy people that are connected to this human trafficking ring down in Florida. And so there's a reason why they don't want anyone, whether it's Timothy Holmseth or anyone, to let the American people know the full extent of what's going on. Now, what the media will try to do, and I've been very encouraged that the media is becoming more and more open and reporting on human trafficking, but what the media will still try to do is whitewash this and say, well, it was just some Johns soliciting prostitutes at a spa. Guys, that's not what this is about. This is going way, way deeper than that. And that is why they're trying to stick Timothy Holmseth into prison, because they don't want him to talk. They don't want him to be able to do this. And there's no crime involved other than exercising his First Amendment right to let the people of the United States know that there is an incredibly powerful and a lot of money's going through a child sex and human trafficking enterprise operating from Florida to New York. Go ahead, Tim.
You know what else is interesting that should be pointed out? In the police report, where the officer logs the evidence, does the screenshots of the computer and all that, he stated that the file appeared to contain scanned copies of court records. He did not state that the file also contained a folder called Polk County Audios. You open the folder, it populates with audios about baby sales and child trafficking and corridors by the CIA in Washington, D.C. He didn't put that. He had to try to not write that in the report. So even down to the level of the just the basic officers, I'm telling you, in this town, in East Grand Forks, what they do is they hire young kids. And then if the kid plays ball and joins the secret society, he gets to stay. You know what I mean? If some poor kid gets out of college and wants to be a cop, and he wants to be a good one, and he wants to be an American, you know what I mean? The good ones get ushered out to get crappy performance reviews. The only ones that get to remain are the corrupt ones.
It's just like you. As a journalist, if you had just agreed to, maybe you could have reported on some of this if you had just said, well, it's just involving some prostitutes and that's really all this is, then you probably would have been fine. But because you were willing to actually defend this poor young girl, Haley Cummings, who, by the way, guys, to this day, we still have no idea where she is. I know Timothy Holmseth believes that she was probably taken down into Mexico.
I was told that.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll ever find her. It's a heartbreaking story, and she's just one example of what's going on down in Florida. Guys, Timothy Holmseth has this court date coming up. Obviously, he's spending a lot of money on lawyers. So I just want to tell people, try to help him out. He has a website that I'll of course link below this video, where people can give him contributions and help him out, because I'm sure he has tremendous legal fees. And like I've said before, he is on the front lines. It's kind of easy for me. I make videos where I interview people and I expose these child sex trafficking stories. I do preaching of the gospel on college campuses. But guys, I haven't had my house raided by police or my computer taken and stuff. I mean, Timothy Holmseth has literally been on the front lines using all of his journalistic integrity to try to tell the American people what's going on. And so if you can't help him financially, then definitely pray for this upcoming court date that's coming up. What's the date of the court date, Tim?
Well, it's either March 11th or March 12th. Okay. Gretchen Handy wrote it on a piece of paper, but I think she might have got the day wrong. By the way, I want to make this official. I did this on Facebook too, but I terminated Gretchen Handy. I terminated her in writing. I did that yesterday, and then I submitted that the letter of termination that I sent her, and I submitted that to the court in the form of a memo, attached to a memo. So the court knows Gretchen Handy is not. I said, I'll do it. She's going to frame me, dude. I wrote in my letter, I said, I'll do it. I'll do the opening argument. I'll question the witnesses. I'll do the closing argument. I'll do it. I'm not going to let them frame me. I know exactly the questions to ask. I didn't just fall off the turnip cart. They know exactly what time it is. So I'll just go in and do it myself. She actually told me that there was no way I could win, and that I should take a plea bargain that would place me at the level of gross misdemeanor. But then if I did it again, it'll be a felony. But Daniel, and I got it in writing what she told me. And if you by logic, if you follow what she says, all they do, let's just say I took that ridiculous plea bargain, all they do is they just wait a week, have somebody put something up on the internet and sign my name to it, and I'd be arrested for a felony. You don't have to prove venue, right? And by the way, Daniel, did anybody notice? I mean, I'm not like everybody's following this, but I'm charged with 4 counts of putting something up on the internet. Daniel, has anybody, this is what was pointed out too, this is another whole element to the case. I was interviewed by Vice News in August. Vice News called me and wanted to know if I'd known that I'd been doxxed by Anonymous. Okay, so they did a story on that. The Grand Forks Herald and the Bismarck Tribune then they interviewed me and asked me questions about the same thing, that I had been doxxed by Anonymous. I've been targeted, Daniel, by a hacktivist group. You know what hacktivist groups do? They steal your passwords. They get into systems. So, and all this stuff starts appearing. I get arrested, for instance, of something popping up on Twitter. And I'm going, huh? And they're telling me that venue doesn't matter? I'll say one thing. Operation Ambition. There's more to come out about. I didn't just fall off the turnip cart. I knew I was being set up long ago, and I knew I had to do something to stay alive.
Yeah. And if you guys haven't seen that video, that was the last interview I had with Timothy about a month ago, where he talks about Project Ambition. He was limited in what he could share with us, but please go watch that video, because Timothy has a lot of information. He's had it for quite a while, that he can use as leverage to help him out of this situation. But of course, we need to be praying for him. we need to be praying for him, with this upcoming court date and the way that they've just continued to harass him. One thing I just want to remind my audience is that this is a battle. And as much as we can be encouraged by the fact that President Trump is going after these satanic pedophiles and child sex traffickers, there's still a battle that we're waging, as we see right here in this circumstance right here. So we need to be praying and really supporting people like Timothy Holmseth because they're waging a war right at the front lines. Tim, I wanted to ask you some more about. I know that you've been tracking this story since. You've been involved with this stuff since 2009, and it's been a number of years. But I wanted to ask if you had any opinions about Bob Kraft in particular. We also have either the former CEO or the former CEO of Citigroup. Some of these big wigs that have been caught up in this net. Do you have any insight or understanding as to how their involvement in this?
Yeah, I'll comment on that. I'd like to add too, just so everybody knows. First of all, I don't think they've released all the names of everybody. I think that's going to keep trickling out. I do think that this was a targeted thing. I think QAnon knew all about it. And I would want to note that, yes, Bob Kraft and some big millionaire CEOs got caught up in it. But also it's been reported that there was also former law enforcement officers that got busted there too, which is exactly what was described to me. And when the Grand Forks Herald did a story about me, the city manager for the city of East Grand Forks, who's the city's persecuting me and prosecuting me, David Murphy, he said that he said for somebody to say that, he was talking about me, and he said that these are hardworking government employees. He was talking about the people that I said are involved in covering up crimes against children and sex trafficking. And he called me sick. And they put that in the state newspaper. So he called me. So David Murphy, the manager of City of East Grand Forks, says I'm sick because I said that government employees were involved in crimes against children and sex trafficking. What do you say now, Dave? What do you say now? What's going on down in Jupiter, Florida, David Murphy? Former law enforcement, and there's more coming out. You know that, Daniel. The names are going to keep coming out. They're going to keep this going, and they're doing this to introduce this reality to the American public. That's why they're doing it the way they're doing it. Now, in regards to Bob Kraft and these CEOs, first of all, I agree with you, Daniel, that the mainstream media that's going to try to sugarcoat this, they're going to just try to sugarcoat it as if, oh, yeah, it's just some old guy. He's just going to a massage parlor. They have already reported, and I think they're being honest. They've honestly reported that apparently at this massage parlor, there was no vaginal intercourse taking place. So basically, this was a hand-and-mouth place. If that's true. But here's the thing. People like Bob Kraft and these guys, first of all, they're creating they're the money. They're creating customers. But you can be assured that Bob Kraft is more involved with these places than just some guy going in there to be serviced, as they say. And they said, by the way, he was being serviced by two females. And I pointed this out to you before we started talking. But there is no way. They try to sugarcoat it and make it sound like, oh, wasn't that bad? It's just the girl. That's her job. She don't mind. Oh, she makes money. No girl wants to get shipped across the ocean to another country. Then she has to go into this building, and it says that the girls are sleeping on the massage parlor beds. They live there. They don't even get to leave. All day long, these girls, either with their hand or their mouth or whatever they got to do for these guys, old gross men that they don't know, that they don't love, that they're not married to, they don't have any children with. They have stolen the dreams of all of these little girls. And they all start as little children. It always starts that way. They start them when they're small, and then they just keep bringing them up, and they act like she's not a victim. Yes, she is. They've stolen their dreams. She doesn't get to go out on a first date. She doesn't get to have a first kiss. Everything has to be disgusting and gross, and her body is a product and a commodity for people like Bob Kraft, and it was Jeff Bezos. He's running around with, I don't know if Bezos is in those, but he's running around with him. He's all huggy-luggy with that Tom Brady quarterback. The way that these, first of all, these operations are owned by these people. I mean, millionaires and billionaires are the ones that own these so-called massage parlors. What they really are, they're little rape centers. These are just little girls that are being raped. It doesn't matter how you try to sugarcoat it. No little girl wanted that life. No little girl ever said, when I grow up, I want to spend all day, all week in a building where I have to give oral sex to men that I don't know. Stinky old fat men. Doesn't happen. They wanted to be normal, just like any child. They didn't get to. That's what outrages me so bad, Daniel. I mean, there's a lot of different things that drive me and force me to keep going. You know, a lot of it is just the torture of the children and the babies and the pedophile and all that. But even this, the stealing of dreams, people like Bob Kraft, they just think they have a right to do that. That's in fact, it said in one of the news articles now, it said that he was in that place doing that, I think on the day of the NFL championship or whatever. That's just an average little normal part of his life.
Yeah.
Like he was going to talk.
Well, one thing I was just going to say is that, because I looked, they pay like $59 for these prostitutes, and because people were trying to tell me, well, all Bob Kraft did was solicit a couple of these prostitutes. That's it. That was his only involvement, and there was some blowback against me when I made a video back on Friday. And I'm saying, well, wait a minute. So a billionaire is going to spend $59 on a prostitute at a massage parlor? That doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. This guy's got to be way more involved in this whole human trafficking ring than just going in to get a blowjob or whatever that he was going to do. Not that that's, I mean, I'm not justifying that. That's completely disgusting and horrible. But I'm just making the point that these highfalutin people, and the reason why Q has made a big deal about this as well, is these people are directly involved in owning these places or operating these places or bringing these places up.
They're slave owners.
These little girls are brought over. They don't know. They're brought over from overseas. They're given all these promises as little girls, and then they grow up in this whole environment where they're just being used by these millionaires and billionaires. It's completely disgusting, and I'm just very grateful that we have a president like President Trump who wasn't involved in all these political machines, so that he can start busting this stuff up. Because, I mean, unless I'm wrong, up until we had President Trump, none of our other presidents or political parties were doing anything to stop this type of stuff, or is very negligible, it seems.
Well, no doubt what it actually is the proper word to describe this is slavery. These girls are slaves. That's it. They're sex slaves. And by the way, Q did a drop where he predicted this, because he said it's going to make the Super Bowl look like a puppy show. Now, some folks have done some research. I thought that was an odd. I didn't even get that. I'm like, why did he say puppy show? I read the drop, but I didn't really get where he's going. Then the thing with Bob Kraft and this thing happens. And some researchers have done research on what puppy means according to the Urban Dictionary. And puppy means like a sex slave that follows you around all day, just trying to service you all the time, just right there. So first of all, if that's the case, this wasn't just him laying down on a table to get a massage or whatever. I mean, it sounds like when you need a human being to follow you around like a dog, like a puppy, just to service you, that's demonic. There is no goodness in that man. There's no spirit of Jesus Christ in that man. There's nothing good about Bob Kraft. There's nothing good about Jeff Bezos. There's nothing good about any of those people, because they're to to dehumanize somebody like that, you're not just sick, you got demons inside controlling your body.
Yeah. But one thing
one
thing I just want to clarify, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. And I'm in no way a supporter of Jeff Bezos, but I don't believe he has been tied to this human trafficking ring. I know Bob Kraft, and I know the former CEO of Citibank or Citigroup, but I don't think Jeff Bezos has been tied to this particular.
You're correct, Daniel. As far as I know, Jeff Bezos is not attached to this sex sting at all. But shortly after it happened, the news showed photographs of Bob Kraft attending, it might have been an award show or something with Jeff Bezos. You know.
Yeah, they're definitely all buddies. They're definitely all in cahoots. And one other thing I just want to say, everybody, the reason why Tim has to shift around some is because he does have problems with his spine. I know he forgot to mention that at the beginning of the video, and so did I. But I just want to make that's why he has to shift around. It's not because he's uncomfortable. Well, he is uncomfortable. It's not because he's uncomfortable with what he's saying. It's because he has a physical ailment with his spine that he's having to deal with. So I just wanted to make that clear to everybody.
Yeah, I should have said that. I usually try to remember. I'm wiggling around, but it doesn't mean I'm lying.
Yeah, exactly. No, so yeah, I just think this is very, very compelling. I mean, obviously, it's as if all of the officers, all the courts, all the city officials that you've dealt with, you know, they've tried to discredit you. They've tried to harass you. Of course, they're prosecuting you right now, as they've done in the past. And yet now we see that everything that you were uncovering is absolutely true.
Yeah.
And the reason they were covering it up, it looks like, is because it's not only absolutely true, but this is involving some very, very powerful and very wealthy individuals.
You know, and you know that at least as far as my own personal situation with these judicial officers in Polk County, Minnesota, the cherry on the top is when I told the judge during the court hearing that I was going to file a federal deprivation of rights lawsuit, Ronald Galstead, this corrupt attorney in East Grand Forks, Minnesota, he interrupted and he told the judge that he was requesting a Rule 2001 motion, which is a request for that I have to take a psych eval. And then he told the judge that he didn't believe I was mentally competent, and then he said that because I thought there was all these conspiracies. So because in Minnesota there is no discretion for the judge says, well, I don't have any discretion if it's requested by either party. The court has to order it. So she ordered it, and I took the psych eval, and I passed that psych eval, of course, with flying colors. And what was I going to say? There was one other thing that was kind of funny about the whole thing. I passed.
Well, I remember you mentioned this before, where you not only did you pass the psych, I mean, they were basically trying to make you look like a nut, and you wound up passing the psych eval with flying colors.
Yeah. Yeah, there was something else I was going to say too. Like, I mean, anyway, they took their shot at me. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. I talked to an attorney, the trial attorney, and I told him that the prosecutor had made this request. He goes, okay, who made this request? It was my lawyer. I was talking to my lawyer as a trial attorney. He goes, okay, who made this request? And I said, Ronald Galstead. He goes, well, this is just idiotic. And then he said, I've never heard, here's what he said. He goes, I've never heard of this. He said, I've never heard of a prosecutor requesting that the accused, the defendant, have to take a psych eval. He said, that's a motion that defense counsels make. You know, like when you're trying to get your client, like, he was too crazy to know what he was doing when he killed the man, or, you know, whatever. He goes, but I've never heard of a prosecutor accusing the guy that he's accusing of a crime that, you know what I'm saying, Daniel? It's like Ronald Galstead could have done a better job of giving himself away to the whole American public the day that he tried to do that to me, and then I passed the test.
Right. Yeah, they try to portray you as a nut. It's unbelievable.
The guy he's prosecuting, yeah.
Well, we've come up to about an hour of this interview, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. You know, I always like having you on, Tim. And I know a lot of people who are subscribers to my channel love to hear from you as well. When this court date comes up next month, I think you said it's either March 11th or 12th. What I'd like to do is I'd like to have you on again, maybe right after this court date. I mean, assuming you're not in prison, which I'm going to pray that you're not going to be. But I'm praying that, you know, we can have you on again. You can kind of tell us exactly what happened, in sort of as real time as we can make it, because I really want people to understand that this is a battle, and those who are standing on the front lines and really trying to uncover this child sex trafficking. Here's what's going on. Here's what's going on right now in 2019 United States of America. And I think if you can give us insight of what actually transpires at the hearing, it would really help a lot of people to see what this battle's involving.
Yeah, and you know that it's a battle, and I'm glad you say that, because what I just want to point out, I know that there's some people out there that get discouraged about Q, or they get discouraged because it ain't happening fast enough, and I'm telling you folks, give the Q team, they're doing it. President Trump is doing it. The Q team is doing it, but you got to understand the enemy fights back, and they fight back hard. Look, that's what they're doing to me. They make you fight for it. They're making me fight for it. If I want to stay out of prison, I have to fight for my life. These monsters they're fighting. You know, the Q team and the good guys in the White Hats, yes, they're the military and everything, but those bad guys, they've got their own tricks, and they've got their own weapons, and they're starting forest fires and doing all kinds of stuff. So be patient. There's a real war going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So everybody, you can go to his website, timothycharlesholmseth.com. I'm going to link right below this video to his website, so you can easily go to that. And Tim, I very much appreciate you joining me today.
Oh, I love being on with you, Daniel. Thanks a lot.
All right. Take care.
God bless you.